Okay, I think I'm live. Let me double check. Yeah, I think I am live. I think the audio is working and let me turn down the music a little bit. Oh no, music's fine. Okay, let's tell the Discord crew I'm here. Perfect, perfect. Oh man, it's been a fun day. It's been a fun day. We did some investigation, some deep investigation. I'll share some of that before we get going with our main topic. I'm super excited. It's been a good week. Uh, I am rearranging my studio. I'm back in my normal one, simply because it'll be a little more convenient for me to do this stream. But I'm really excited about the new location. I'm really excited about it because it gives me a little bit more of a workshop vibe because I'm setting it up in the tablet grotto. I don't think I've streamed since I've actually modified this setup as well. It should be a little bit easier for me to look at the camera. Let's see, we have Aquarake and Sack is here. Hey, hello, hello. Uh, what did I do today? We will talk about that. I'll show you actually. Someone brought up a really fascinating thing, which I didn't believe. It's not like I didn't believe the person. I just was really surprised by the comment. They had purchased a refurbished Cintiq Pro 22, and they had contacted me on Reddit, and I said, join the Discord because it'll be easier to understand what's going on. Sack, you were first? Okay, okay. And Lazy Artist is here. So that person said their Cintiq Pro 22, the pixels were, now they used the word blurry. They were blurry compared to the Huion Canvas 24 4K, which is a model from like 2001. And I have both those tablets. And I said, wow, I don't really remember that Cintiq Pro 22 being blurry at all. In fact, I've always used it as a reference point. Well, I got both of them out, and what do you know? The Canvas Pro is really crisp, and the Cintiq Pro 22 is slightly. I want to be careful with my words. It's soft. Remember when I talked about the Canvas Pro 19 being soft? It's not quite that bad, but it is softer than the Huion. And I was like, wow. So we did a little investigating, and I'll show you some pictures in a bit. So it's really interesting. Yeah, Rain, I'm there with you. It's been really quiet. It's been really quiet. About the most exciting thing that's happened recently is, in tablet news, all we've got is the new DigiDraw Turing tablets that have been released. I demoed one on stream. I tested it out. Overall, very happy. Small brand though, so you should take that into account. But I was super happy with it. I still need to get back to them with my notes and share some of my feedback. But besides that, it has been quiet, really quiet. Huion has not released any PW600 pen tablets. Wacom has been quiet. XP Pen has been super quiet. They're like, I'm not saying they're like not doing anything. They're on Twitter or X tweeting or whatever, but they're not no major product announcements. Now, look, that doesn't mean anything's wrong. It's just that products get announced when they get announced, and there's not, everyone's on their schedule, so we just have to be patient. But yeah, we went from a period of a lot of excitement to like calmness. And maybe I can use this to my advantage. There's lots of little projects related to drawing and creativity I want to get into. But let me show you. By the way, let me back up for a second. The stream really is the intention was not to talk about Wacom Cintiq Pro blurriness, which we will talk about. What is the purpose of the stream? So someone in the Discord said there's a huge thread on X about pressure curves, and I love talking about pressure curves, and because there's a lot that is unknown about them. There's a lot that is honestly a lot that is misunderstood, and what is often passed on as knowledge is basically uh, it doesn't capture the full reality of what's going on. There are myths. There are a lot of myths going on. So we want to reveal what those myths are and talk about the realities. and talk about them in ways that are very approachable for people so that you understand how it is we're able to say, here's what pressure curve you should use, and here's how tweaking it certain ways does things. And honestly, we have to revisit the question, what is a pressure curve? That's probably the most misunderstood thing about a pressure curve. So we'll definitely do that. Let me take a look at the Discord to see if anyone is... Well, the Discord is busy talking about pressure curves as well. Do people, Akorek says, people discuss pressure curves on Twitter. Aren't they all just fighting about politics or something? Oh, it turns out you can do more than one thing on Twitter. But yeah, there's a long thread. Let me find the thread, actually. Give me a second. It's long. And like, I think the thread actually begins from 2025, but it's active today. Okay. And there's strong opinions in the Discord about it. Oh, where is this? Let me find it. Hang on. So we're going to take a look at the thread, and we're going to... where? And there was just so many comments in the... hang on. Oh, it was Lazy Artist. That was who sent me the link. Okay. I wonder what they're working on behind the scenes, Sack says, like the Wacom that has Art Pen 2. Again, hey, I just want to point out for any lawyers in the audience, I didn't bring up the Art Pen 2. That was that was the community. They mentioned it, not me. Let's see. Lazy Artist did provide a... Yeah, okay. So we're going to take a look at the thread, but let me just give you the thread first. Okay, so it begins actually with someone named Alan Winkler, and it's a long thread. It's a long thread, okay. And let's, actually, let me open up my, give me a second. Let me open up the chat on another screen. So excited. Pop out chat. There we go. Excuse me. By the way, how am I looking? You know, I'm keeping close track of my weight, and I feel like I've just gotten to the next threshold. I hope I'm looking good. You know, I'm starting to just like check myself out in the mirror all the time now. In both to see improvement, but also, you know, a little bit of frustration that things aren't progressing quite as fast. But it's exciting. Getting healthy is exciting. It's work, and it requires patience, but it is exciting. Okay, where is that link that Lazy Artist gave me? Okay, so I'm going to put the link in chat. I can find my mouse. Let's go. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see. Where is the chat window? Ledger says, you're looking great. We're on the same boat. Great to hear. So it sounds like you're getting healthy too. Okay, I sent the link. It starts with someone named Alan Winkler at Winkler Draws. Okay. And we're going to take a look through the thread. Let me bring up my screen here. Give me just 1 second to figure out how this works. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this is the original post. And as you can see, it starts with a very provocative message. Let's save our wrists while we can, comrades. And here's the pressure curve, obviously XP Pen. And so unusual pressure curve in a couple of ways. Maybe not obvious, but first of all, it looks like there's a little bit of what they call a pressure dead zone. and it also looks like it actually doesn't get all the way up to the top. Second, and the most important thing you'll probably notice about this is the sudden ramp up and then going over. It's a highly unusual pressure curve. And this person says, I think it starts actually with this one. There's another one. Everyone, please do yourselves a favor. I think he's responding to somebody. And make your drawing pressure curve something like this. Your wrists will thank me later. And again, this is interesting. This one rises up and hits, and it does this. So we're gonna talk about what rising up like this means and what it means to move this corner over. Okay, this looks to be in Procreate, and I'm gonna see if anyone actually I thought it was mentioned in one of these threads, by the way. So I'm gonna take a look. Let me go back to the other one. Okay. So, and I'm gonna take. You know what? I'm gonna start up PowerPoint, and I'm gonna take. I'm gonna grab different screenshots here, so we can just have a survey of what have people been saying here. You saw that Aquarake? Yeah, it's a really interesting thread, but we want to be complete. We don't want to just respond to it. We want to see, and I just want just to be clear about this. We're not going to put anyone down for what they choose. I do think some of the choices, I understand the problem they're trying to solve. I understand the goal they're trying to achieve. But I do think there are better ways for them that will give them at least as good as an experience as they're having. And also will teach them some other things they can do. So I want to teach them we'll talk about the fundamentals, okay? All of this, I think, goes back to people don't really know they have an idea what the pressure curve is doing. But I think if you were to survey, honestly, 100 users, and you actually if you were like a developer and ask them, what do you think it's doing? Like literally, what is it doing to the pressure data coming back from the pen? I don't think they'd be able to I think they'd be able to tell you something very accurate in some sense, but it's accurate in it's like a sliver. Okay, and the reason I say this is when I see them write or talk about it, they say things which indicate that they don't have the full picture. And a great example is when someone says, make the pressure curve look like this, just a line. And they'll say, oh, that means the pen is behaving linearly. Actually, it does not mean that. And you have no clue how the pen is behaving. Okay? You can say something very specific, but you can't say anything of the pen's behavior. Nothing. Right? In fact, it doesn't matter what curve you pick. You're not really sure what the pen's behavior is. That's where this gets tricky. And to just get to the point real quick, which we'll revisit, pressure curves, they don't, how can I say this, to be exact? They modify the pen behavior. They don't tell you what it is. You could say they're creating a new behavior. That would be fair. Think about like this. In Photoshop, you have like an image, right? A layer. And then you have another layer on top of it, which is like what do I call it? Like an effects layer. Like it's doing like darken or glow or whatever those things are, right? Burn, dodge. If I told you if I told you you had burn or dodge set to a value, would you know what the picture looked like? You'd probably you don't have a picture. Like you need a picture to understand what burn and dodge are doing to the picture. But we don't have that picture, right? So we're gonna have to understand what that relationship is. Let's see how we have comments here. Lazy Artist, I tried the pressure curve for the Apache Pen WoW, and it's something. What did you notice? It's hard to use. I'd love, Lazy Artist, if you could tell us what's hard to use. Okay, and we're gonna play some pressure games in this stream. Lazy Artist says, but that guy's art, Alan, has super cool art. Well, that's good. Maybe we'll take a look. I'll put that in my notes to say, let's take a look at the people's art. Okay, so let's see. So we had Alan Winkler, And again, no criticisms intended. We are trying to learn what people are thinking. Okay, we're trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and maybe from that we'll be able to understand. And so we need to understand what they're saying. Why do they do it? What do they like about it? So that's one. Let me get back to the screen here. This silly Stream Deck thing doesn't work correctly. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what else do we have here? Saxon, it's just changing the pressure output. Sorry, where's that? I think a comment got deleted. It's hard for me to use, but the guys that aren't. It's like Lazy Art said, it's super hard to get thin lines, of course, and we'll explain why. It's like having no pen pressure at all. Interesting. Aquaric, I'm using Samsung Galaxy Tabs, so it's all old Samsung tech, but I use the ZBook HP pen. Got it. Else Villas says, hi, I was finally able to mimic Intuos 3 pressure on an XP Pen 16K. I had to combine two curves. I'd love for you, if you're on the Discord, can you show us what curves you use? I'd love to know. Right? Oh, or in Dropbox. Yeah, that works too. That works too. We'd love to see it. We should, that's what we really want to do as a community. We want to share our knowledge. Okay? And that's why we're looking at what people are doing on X, because we want to understand what are people saying, right? And how does that match up to reality? Now, by the way, one more thing. We, and I do mean we in this case, Brad Colbo, he's starting to stream every Wednesday, and he invited me on his stream. We talked about all sorts of things, and we went on for about an hour, and there I started talking about pressure curves a little bit, and I think I surprised him with a few things I said, but it just made me think I really need to spend more time explaining this. I've made videos about it, but honestly, I think the videos are geared toward more like a developer or something. I don't think they're geared, and I don't think they get to the point as quickly as they should, and are not as clear as they need to be for just a general audience that is an artist. For me, Intuos 3 was the best curve, easier to control at the beginning of the stroke. I can understand that. We'll see if we have any data to support that. I can think of reasons why that is, absolutely. I guess one point to consider is if, this is Rain, one point to consider is if it was on Procreate, you had mentioned that Apple Pencil has a more linear curve. Yes, thank you, Rain. That is so critical that you mentioned that. Yes, we'll talk about that. Okay, let's go through the thread here and find more examples of, what are people saying? Because I think I'm seeing weird curves from my perspective. Again, no criticism implied of the. Where's my mouse? Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Here, and he was responding to this person, right? So I'm putting this in a PowerPoint. Okay. Putting all this in a PowerPoint. Let me find the. My mouse is so messed up here. Okay, copy image, and let's paste it. I'd like to have, what else? And we'll take a look at the text as well. We want to see what people are saying. Let me zoom in. How's that? Or I want to get rid of the stuff on the right if I can. I don't know if it's possible. Look at this person. I entered terrible tendonitis for 2 weeks because I hadn't set the drawing tablet pressure right. So that's actually useful to know. It really does have an ergonomic impact on people. My biggest struggle is keeping my hand light. I wonder why they feel they need to. Right? Yuan Blood. Can someone explain to me what the problem is? It looks like I'm drawing a regular tablet, but I draw using the base it has. It ends up a bit reclined. I'm not sure I understand his question. Oh, look at this one. This is more like what I use, right? And, I do have a standard recommended curve, or at least a standard template. It's complicated because there are actually multiple pressure curves involved, by the way. Like I'm scrolling down. Wasn't there more? There was a huge thread. That can't be all of them. That cannot be all of them. Hang on, let me find. I may have missed something. The thread I saw was huge. Aquaric says, "How does one have multiple pressure curves?" Well, the news here's some news for you. You are already under the rule of multiple pressure curves. You may not even know it. There was probably more in the original post. Yeah, let's find the original post. I think it might have been this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay, let's scroll down. Thank you for that, lazy artist. Sack says, what I meant to say, I believe changing the pressure curve is changing the pressure output. It is. It's shaping the pressure output. It's also deciding which input it'll pay attention to. Okay? So pressure curves, I guess there's three things you can say it does. It decides how much of the input it's going to listen to. Okay? It decides, that's the input range. It decides how much of the output range it will use. Okay? Obviously, by default, most pressure curves use the full input and the full output. And it seems like that, it seems like that would be the natural thing to do, but actually there are reasons you don't want to do that. Very compelling reasons not to do that, by the way. And then the other thing that it's doing is it's shaping the transformation from input to output. Okay? So you got to keep fundamentally those three things in mind. How much of the input to use, how much of the output to use, and shaping the transformation from one to the other. Okay? That's the curve part. Okay? Okay, let's get back to this thing. Take a look. So this person's like, I tried this curve, and they go, oh, it feels like a lifesaver. Look at this one, Glucose Guardian. As someone with arthritis, this difference is literally instant. Thank you so much for this. Now, by the way, I think all these people are being accurate. It's helping them. Though, I would pick a different curve that would still help them, okay? But because people, actually, there's a couple of things going on. There's not a lot of explanation what pressure curves are. The UI also isn't helping you. The UI that you see in applications and in drivers, look, what am I doing holding my hand like this? The UI that you see in applications and drivers could tell you more about what's going on to some extent, which would help you understand, but they don't. And that's something I want to change. Look at this person. He asks the right question, or she asks, is this a pen setting or drawing app setting? And the answer is yes. It's like 3 yeses. There are settings for the driver, maybe for the specific pen. There's a setting for the app, and some apps have 2 pressure curves, one for the global app and one for the brush. Can you believe that? So really, if you're a Clip Studio Paint user or a Krita user, you've got 3 pressure curves to think about. 3. Which one should you use? What if multiple are set? What happens? Now, this person posted this curve. He mentions, so someone's asking, what does it do? He goes, it makes it, so this is good. We're going to see what this person actually says. It makes it so you don't have to press as hard to get higher amounts of pen pressure output. That's good for your wrist and good for your tablet in the long term. So he has a clear explanation of what he thinks the benefit is. And by the way, from his perspective, it is doing that, but I think it's also creating a problem he probably doesn't notice. Okay? 3 pressure curves. Yeah. It is. That's why it's important to talk about this topic, because it's not known by people. The more you as a community can understand the different pieces, it's your job, really, it's your job to educate the rest because you're going to talk to people on X or, in meetups and things, and you're going to tell them, oh, actually, there's all this other stuff that you don't realize about pressure curves. Many people are having difficulty drawing lightly. The pressure curve graph is unintuitive. I had difficulty controlling my lines for years. The pressure was too sensitive. Yeah, we're going to fix that. We're going to show you how to fix that. And some people have stumbled upon the fix, but there's UI that would help you understand the fix, which unfortunately very few apps and drivers do. Everyone's asking, lots of people asking, where did you make this change and what's the benefit? So it's interesting. And this guy echoes. Mine is the almost exact opposite of this, right? So it's interesting, right? We have a disparity in what people are saying. This person says the evil, intimidating, heavy-handed artist. So this person, I'm gonna copy this image, put it in the PowerPoint. Lots of XP Pen users in this thread. And this one, let me copy the, this person, I can tell you what this pressure curve, it's probably like goes up and down like this. Oh, this person did something interesting. Yeah, that's the line. It's good. Notice now this person did it in Clip Studio Paint. I'm very sure, just from my memory about the UI. When you stare at pressure curve UI a lot, you start to remember what every apps look like. Okay. Straight line, my beloved, this person says. So that's a classic. What does straight line mean? This guy's joking. There's no one. This is not. You don't want this. Well, I can try it for you. You'll see. Let's see. So is it the global pressure curve, the CSP global pressure curve? Correct, Akwarik. Yeah, CSP and Krita both have a global pressure curve, and they have a brush pressure curve. And your question is, well, someone's question might be, which one's applied? The answer is, both are applied. Okay, that's why you always need to know what the global pressure curve is set to. I recommend, by the way, you don't need to use it. Just use the brush pressure curve, okay? I'm trying to think of an analogy. Yeah, here's an analogy, okay? Imagine using an adjustment layer in Photoshop, like dodge or burn, right? But then I tell you, if you go into Photoshop settings, there's a special global adjustment layer that adds a little bit of some kind of dodge burn thing. You understand if there's another thing doing dodging and burning, and you've got your own effect layer doing dodging and burning, those effects add up, and therefore your dodge and burn layer is being impacted by what the other one is doing. So in a similar sense, you need to know what the global setting is for your apps, okay? You got to know. Okay, Elsa, post on Discord, to control the beginning of XP Pen took me a lot of time to calibrate it. If you tilt the pen, changes the beginning. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's because, there's a physical effect on tilt. Okay, let's take a look in the Discord. Let's find it. Oh, I see. Elsa Vias. I'm going to add that to the my PowerPoint. Oops, didn't copy correctly. Let's try that again. Copy image. Oh, sometimes I truly hate Discord. This is Elsevier's. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about this. See, you get, sorry, let me back up. I see so many pressure curves. I can look at them, and I know all of us can tell what the curve means, but I can instantaneously tell, oh, here's the net, here's the basic effect. And we're going to practice that. We'll look at the curves and we'll say, what's this tell us? Okay. That's a good diagnostic thing to do. Okay, let me copy the image and put it in the PowerPoint. I can tell you what it's doing. So it sounds like Elsevier is presses harder than most people, or it could be because of the pen, right? Good one. Thank you for sharing. And did you have two pressure curve? Oh, I see, I see. So I didn't catch that. So let's pay attention. Okay, so Elsevier, let me tell you something interesting. Both your pressure curves are, you can see it obviously, are doing the same thing. That's not wrong. It's about the top part. And later we'll talk about why it might be preferable for you to do that top part in one place. Okay? I just want to give you a preview of that. There's nothing wrong with doing it in two places, but I just want to make sure you understand what's happening. Thank you for clarifying. Left is Clip Studio. Okay. And in combination. So since there are two things here, the left is Clip Studio, the right is XP Pen driver. What's happening is, first the driver curve is applied, then XP Pen's pressure curve is applied, and this is the global XP Pen pressure curve. You should, Elsevier, you should check which brush you're using, because there probably is a third pressure curve used for that brush. So why don't you, I don't know, can you tell us which brush you use, and can you check if it's using a pressure curve? Hey, the alligator. Koya, you like that pressure curve as filter? Good. I think it's working for me. I think it gives, because a lot of people in our business, in our field, understand that what a filter does. And by the way, I'm glad you brought this up, Koyo. That filter analogy is completely accurate. It's technically correct. Like, Photoshop curves? That's exactly what is, what a great, okay, I'm glad you said this. We can use that analogy perfectly to describe what's happening with these pressure curves. The exact same things. Agorek, if someone has a bad pressure curve and they learn to draw beautiful illustrations, if they went and changed it up, it might screw up their entire drawing flow. That's true. That's true. Like, over time, you get some people, I think, get very sensitive to how the tools work, and change can be disruptive. Okay. Rain says it's interesting because Android tablets, iPads have a default pressure set on Clipshift Paint that ramps up the curve. I'll have to take a look at that, Rain. I hadn't thought about looking at what's set up on Clip, but I'll take a look. I'm trying to mimic the spring nib. There's something that, I have to be honest with you. I don't know how the spring nib affects things. There's different theories about how this works. Some people say the spring nib has no effect on the pressure curve or the pressure behavior. Other people say it does. Some people say it has no technical effect, but it just makes it feel nicer to you. I'm actually in that camp, that it has no effect on the curve, but it just feels nicer to you. So we'll test that theory. Like it feels nicer physically. Okay, let's get back to the. We want to see as much as we can. So this one, sorry, is a joke curve. That's not a real. We'll show it to you. There's no problem there. Oh, I went backwards. I don't know which app this is. I don't know why there's a red line and a white line. That's interesting. Okay, this is when it grows up. This is another one. This person says, Basking Crow says, I have hypermobility. My fingers have to rest my hand every couple minutes when drawing. So yeah, I can see why this person did this curve. Let me save it. Because the comment's interesting. It seems like their hand gets tired. Okay. By the way, what is hypermobility? I'm not actually sure what that is. This is interesting. It's rare you see someone make that top change. And this person, I gotta tell you, well, I'll get to that later. Everyone, I see a lot of people changing the global pressure curve, and I think you should not do that. Just Uh, Wild curve. We can try it. We can try it. Let's see, Lucky or Luca. There are way too many variables to say this will work for everyone. True. That's totally accurate. I think better advice is to tell people to try different configurations if they're suffering from wrist or any arm-related pain. This is main, by the way. Any other causes pain. So look at this person. They really. Oh, here's another thing. It also depends on the specific. Not only it's sorry. It depends on the specific pen. Not. Let's suppose you have two pens, right? Let me pick up two pens here. You have to use a different pressure curve for each one. Actually, you don't. If the pens behave similarly, you don't need to do that so much. But a Huion pen might behave very differently than a Wacom pen, right? So, and two Wacom pens might behave very differently. So it's per pen unit, not just per pen model. It's per pen unit, which is another fact lots of people do not realize. This one, I've got something like it. I've got something like that. I think these are falling into certain patterns. Okay, so I'll just keep on looking real quick. This is an extreme pressure curve. Okay, and I'll give some theories about this person. I think this person is probably a heavy-handed drawer. Okay, we'll just keep scrolling real quick to see any weird ones. I almost stopped at that and looked at us. Oh gosh. Another one. Okay, this person says, really, it should look like this if you care at all about fine pressure control. I'm not sure. I can understand why someone feels this way. It probably works very well for that person. I'm not sure it needs to look exactly like this. I think there's a misleading part of the statement. This curve does more than what he says. Okay, most of them, there seems like we're just petering out on different examples. I'm looking for anything crazy. Okay, we got it all. I've got it all captured. Let me show you. It's all here. We look at every pressure curve. Okay? So I'm going to just quickly go through these. I'm going to tell you what I can see from them, okay? And it won't make sense maybe, but then we'll explain what's going on, okay? Oops, I hate the PowerPoint does that. Slideshow. I never understand. I just do not understand how PowerPoint does these things. Sometimes PowerPoint just absolutely makes me frustrated. Okay. Get a sneeze. Oh, sorry. Sudden sneeze came out of nowhere. And let me double check my comments because sometimes the streaming app I'm using doesn't fully keep up. Double check. DCF 25 discussions getting heated in the pressure curve community on Twitter. Yep, indeed. Let's see. Rain says, I think many people draw a lot with the wrists and fingers without realizing that. Oh, good point, Rain. Good point. Elsevier, I saw you with Brad live stream. Congrats the other day. Did you make the glove? Oh man, I didn't even think about the glove dance. We did not do the glove dance. I wish maybe I should add that to my repertoire. The glove dance. Okay, let's see if this works this time. Okay, here we go. So, I'm going to tell you what stupid. Oh, I hate PowerPoint. Okay. This person, remember, we do not know the behavior of the pen. but I can tell you how it's affecting the pen. This curve is making the pen way more sensitive. Okay? The effect of this curve for most people, almost everybody, is that your lines will be thicker. Okay? Now, some people want thicker lines. I think there are better ways of getting thicker lines by default. Okay? So I think that this person, because this is what they said, I think this person solved the problem in a more complex way than they needed to. And later on, you'll understand why. This person, and again, it won't be clear, but later on it will be. This person doesn't, I'm inferring from their comments, they are, whether intentionally or not, they have reduced the maximum physical pressure on their pen. In other words, they have changed the behavior such that they don't have to press as hard to get to 100%. Okay? So that may have been what motivated this curve. And specifically how it meets the top part, this part right here. Okay? This actually, this transition here, moving this thing here, actually reduced the maximum pressure. Some people need that. This curve tends to be done for two reasons. There's actually several things going on here, but let's just talk about the curve part. And we'll get to the other part in a different one. This one tends to be for people who draw with a heavy hand. In other words, they don't want to draw really carefully light. They're just kind of they just lay their pen there, and they're just kind of drawing. Okay, they're not trying to do like really careful light work. And so these people describe themselves as heavy-handed. The other reason people use this kind of curve is because when they are drawing light, there's some lack of control over pressure. So it's hard to keep it in that light zone consistently. Okay, we will show you how it fixes that problem. This is very similar to that. Okay, this person, so don't worry, this curve, the fact it curves the way it does, up and to the right, this has made the pen more sensitive. Anytime the curve goes up early, here's the line, right? If it goes up early, it makes the pen more sensitive. Okay? It never making it less, always more. Now, what's intriguing here is they've raised the height here. Okay? Like the curve starts not at the bottom in the corner, but up here. What does that do? It's not so obvious right now. So it did not affect the IAF at all. Pressure curves can implicitly transform the IAF. They can increase it, not decrease it. This has made it so that light pressure is treated as heavy. It starts at a heavier output value. In other words, if you press with one, out of 8,000 pressure levels, you press with one, that's like 0.001% pressure. This makes that lightest, the one pressure, amount to 25% pressure. Literally, that's what it's doing. Okay, so by default, your strokes will be thicker. Okay. Let's see if there's any comments, just in case. Oops, where are the comments? Oh, gosh, this is so silly. Lost track of those. Where are they? I might have to reopen. There we go. Okay. Euchre says, I find that pressure curves that stop at 80% when you do full pressure feels most natural to me. You're talking about the top part, Euchre? And it's weird if I don't cut out the last 20%, it feels like it's hard to control opacity. Interesting. DCF says, gotta say, it kind of depends on how you hold the pen. If you're angling like trad or using it up straight, that also affects pressure. DCF, Aquarake says, BRB. Mountain DCF says Mountain High sends pressure gang. Okay. Let me put those comments over here and let me change the window so it's a little bit easier for me to see. What the? There we go. Okay, it's a little easier for me to handle. Okay. Let's go back to taking a look. And we're going to explain why I say these things. Get back to PowerPoint. Okay. This person, I don't know what they're thinking, but I'll tell you what they're doing, like what the net effect is. If they have deliberately chosen this curve, which is the default curve, this curve literally says, do nothing. Okay? In other words, it is not behaving the behavior, it is not changing the behavior of the pen in any way. If you thought about it like an effects layer, like an adjustment layer in Photoshop, that adjustment layer is set to do nothing, or it's like transparent in a sense. So again, this means do nothing, no effect, null. Okay? Oops, where is there we go. This one, I can't remember if this was someone already. This person generally they're drawing with a heavier hand. Pretty heavy actually. And they're reducing the maximum pressure. I can just tell that by looking at it. And this is, I think, was this Aquarigs? Or was this Lazy Artist? And they're reducing the pressure, the maximum pressure in 2 places. So they're double reducing it, which I think is generally can be dangerous. Okay. I have, while testing tablets, I've done these things in 2 places, and ended up like my pen didn't feel right. Now I have to remember. I have to check the other curves. The do nothing gang. It's funny. Yeah, that drawing. I didn't even notice that until you said that, Uncle Rick. About to break a hole in their tablets. Yes. Okay, this one, same thing. It's just reducing the maximum pressure. And this person has reduced the maximum pressure quite a bit. This person, this is more of a, honestly, I think this is more of a gimmick curve. It might work very well for this person. We'll try it out. If I have to read this, what I'd say is there's a sudden, when this person gets to about 50% physical pressure, there's a sudden, this person probably, when they're drawing with their brush, probably finds it difficult to keep the brush at its middle value, like its half thickness. It probably does not get to half thickness very easily. And what this means is any slight physical change is pushing the brush bigger and smaller in ways that are probably a little surprising. This person might want that because they want to see variation in their lines. And we'll test this theory of mine out. Euchre says, Lazy Artist, we'll take a look. Oh, so that's what we saw. Okay, got it. I think it's because I want to be sensitive, Euchre says, at the start, but at the end, I don't want to be too sensitive, which is, yeah, that makes sense. Elsevier, to be honest, I have no scratches in my tablets. It's not that I use too much pressure. It's just that 16K tablets lit up 25%. I don't understand the comments. Could you tell me what you mean by split up 25%? And why it is that you think that 16K pressure levels have an impact? Because the number of pressure levels don't actually affect how pressure curves work at all. That seems, oh, yeah, Alligator, yeah, you're right. And that goes back to my comment about this seems like, it's a little bit of a gimmick. This seems like something, you're right. When you get, I would classify this as a weird shape. It's something you use as an effect for brushes. So I agree with that comment. Elsevier, I do blending in 10% of the beginning of strokes. Got it, interesting. Spit up. Okay. Well, Elsevier, oh yeah, split up. I think you're saying it gets to 25% pretty fast. That's actually common for lots of pens. I'll show you the data. Lots of pens do that. This person has really reduced the maximum pressure. It could be, lots of people have, their hands are not strong. Well, maybe they have like grip strength or whatever, but they can't hold the pen and press as hard as some other people. Even I don't enjoy it. I don't like to press down hard, even though it doesn't hurt me. But this person has really reduced their maximum pressure. The other reason people do that is some pens are just have an abnormally high maximum pressure. I have one that the normal high maximum pressure in reality is like 800 gram force. I have one that's like 4,000 gram force. So you're pressing down with like 8-9 pounds of force. That's crazy. You'll probably end up breaking the pen. So sometimes this is needed, but it's unusual. This person, yeah, heavy-handed. This really, in a lot of ways, is just a very linear. It doesn't really affect the stroke that much, actually. It just makes it all, but it does make sure as you get to the end, nothing weird happens. It might be because as they're getting to the maximum pressure, they're struggling to keep it still, meaning steady. Okay, so we saw lots of things. Let's talk about now what the heck is going on. Okay. Now, I'm going to need a tablet, so give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm going to use the DigiDraw Turing Basic M tablet, and then we'll start, because it has a pretty wide pressure range. That's easy for me to talk about. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I've got the tablet, and we can begin and start explaining things. Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look at the comments. Elsevier says, it's so hard to control the beginning of 16K pressure. You never know what will come out at the beginning of the stroke. Give me 5%. Okay, we will fix that. The only thing I'll point out, Elsevier, it has nothing to do with the 16,000 pressure levels. That happens to all tablets or all pens, no matter how many pressure levels, okay? It's just a function of how EMR pens work. And I'll prove that to you. I will absolutely prove that to you. Some pens are more sensitive than others in this sense, have that problem more, but it happens to all drawing tablet pens, okay? Elsevier, but Samsung's tablets, pressure is so easy to control in 4K. There are probably reasons for that. I'm going to show you. You'll see that those pens, I've got one, a Samsung S Pen somewhere right here. The reason why it might be easy is, let me just say, like, it's not due to the number of pressure levels, okay? It's probably due to the fact of how much you're pressing your curves and the specific nature of that pen, which I'll show you. I have the numbers. DCF, honest opinion, for real, making it more sensitive worth more than keeping that feeling of traditional drawing. Got to save your hands. So let me see if I can understand. For some people, it might be better to make it more sensitive than to maintain traditional feel. That's a great point. we don't have to mimic what. There's no reason for us to necessarily mimic what. There's no reason for us to mimic what traditional media does, right? You don't. You can do whatever you want digitally. Let's see. It's funny. Wacom tablets use Samsung screens, but Samsung tablets use Wacom pens. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. True. Samsung, Android, and Windows doesn't let you play with universal curve. Yeah, yeah. With Samsung tablets, there's no driver curve, but there is an app global curve for apps that have one. With 4K pressure levels, you don't need. Clip Studio does a great job. Do you own a Samsung? I do. I have Clip Studio Paint and with my Wacom moving pad devices. To be honest, with my moving pads, I actually use Wacom's what do they call it? Canvas app, because I do a lot of sketching on them. I don't do so much Clip Studio on them. Koyo, I have a Pro Pen 2 with 2,000 gram force. Very hard to reach one. Oh wow, yeah, that's extreme. That's extreme. It happens. Like I actually consider those defective pens, but a defect that is fixable through curves. DCF, but they ain't on the real money tennis ball grip on the pen to make gripping it easier. I've always wanted to try that actually, like a really thick kind of grip. Something about Pro Pen curves works so well that old EMR stuff drives me crazy. You imagine drawing while lying down with a screenless tablet and monitor on your roof. Okay, so first we're gonna talk theory, and then you're gonna see the effects with your own hands. Okay, so I want you to, but first we're gonna talk theory. Okay. So let me bring up a tool, which is Microsoft Whiteboard, which I honestly do not like. Wait till Microsoft adds AI to their whiteboard tool. Can you imagine it? It'll probably say, what would you like to whiteboard today? Want me to whiteboard it for you? Like, no. Actually, to be fair, it'd be cool if it could do things like clean up a drawing or make it look like an actual rendered drawing instead of my scratches. Okay, just so you show you what I'm seeing. This is so funny. This is Microsoft Whiteboard. We're having trouble connecting. Jesus Christ. This is why I don't like this app. It's like, it's slow. It's just, okay. So let's get a new page here. And this is, by the way, I'm going to draw with the S Pen. This is actually, I'm using this Asus tablet, which is actually supports the S Pen. So I can actually draw right on what I'm seeing. Let me move the keyboard out of the way. And let me move this out of the way. Let's see. Yeah, imagine drawing while lying down with a screenless tablet and monitor on your roof. Yeah, I've tried it. It's not. I've tried it. Or something like it. Look up tattoo pen grips. Might have. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. That's actually a great idea to see it. I know we got those grips for kids. Apple Pencil silicone grips. I've not tried one on an Apple Pencil yet. Usually people that don't rotate the canvas hurt their arms easier. I hadn't even thought about that. I am not a canvas. Well, it's rare for me to do it. I don't know why. It seems like so obvious that you should do it. Yeah, some people rotate the whole device. That's true. Wait, what Asus tablet uses old Wacom pens? Okay, so this is the Asus. You can't see it. It's the Asus ProArt. I'll give you the actual model number right here. PA169CDV. So this is, I think, a 4K display that works with an S Pen. It comes with its own pen, but it's the same tech as a Wacom CP913 pen or a 912 pen or Samsung S Pen. So I'm actually going to use a Samsung S Pen with it. But yeah, it's I mean, it's only 16 inches. I wish it was a bit bigger, to be honest. And it doesn't need a driver. It can't use a driver, which is great on Windows, which means I can mix and match it with any other tablet and it won't interfere with it because it's not using a tablet driver. Where are my glasses? I literally have lost my glasses. Oh, here it is. Okay. There we go. Ouch. Okay. So I just want, okay, so everyone's got to bear with me here as I just remember the tooling. Okay. So first of all, let's just go back to, let's stick to that kind of analogy that, pressure curves are not how the pen behaves. In fact, very few of you, some of you have because we've been talking, most people who use a tablet do not have a clear distinction, or at all, they don't even know it exists, that there's a pen behavior and there's a way the behavior's changed, okay? Processed, okay? So let me try to think of an analogy. And so one analogy we came up with is photo versus, the photo layer, the background layer, versus the effects layer. Everyone in so far talks about the effects layer, which is the curve. Very few people understand what the camera is doing to create the photo. Okay? You understand the analogy? Like, the pen is like the camera. Okay? It translates real world information into numbers. That's what the camera does. That's what the pen does. The camera does it as a two-dimensional set of pixels. The pen does it as a time-based stream of positions and pressure, okay? Like pen reports. But they do the same thing. They take some input and they map it to numbers. The camera's input is light. Light becomes numbers. The pen, in this case, we're talking about pressure, takes pressure, force, turns out into numbers, okay? So you can just imagine there's a mapping between physical to numbers, to digital. And you have to ask yourself simple questions with the camera. If a light bulb is so bright, what number will the camera give you back in your image? If I increase the light to twice as much power, will the pixel be twice as bright or not? Everyone knows the answer to this. The answer is it's a non-linear relationship. How light interacts with the sensor on a camera is not linear. It's not linear in your eyes either, by the way. So that tells you something. That this translation from physical light to digital is not a straightforward relationship for a camera. And the same thing happens with a pen, okay? With cameras, we're used to talking about this relationship. We're used to it all the time. If you get one of these, these mirrorless cameras or DSLRs, Sony, Nikon, whatever, there's all these modes like Cine and whatever. There's all these different like color modes and things. Those are all ways, essentially, of changing that relationship, changing how the physical input maps to the numbers. Okay, so that mapping happens in the camera. Same thing happens in the pen. But we're used to talking about it with cameras. No one ever, now we do in this Discord and in this chat. No one's ever talked about it with the pen. We're going to talk about it. Once you've got the numbers, you get to transform the numbers. In Photoshop, you transform the numbers with effects layers. Literally, there's an effects layer called curves. That is literally the same curve that is in your driver and in your apps. I'm not joking. I'm not saying like they're analogous. I'm not saying they're similar. They are literally the same. They do the same exact thing, the same exact way. Okay? And so they're perfectly analogous. Okay? So let me just take a look at the comments. And I want to make sure we're not leaving the section until people are good with what I've said. Nick Tyler, thanks for joining us. I saw Deco Pro XLW in Timeline. Anything new about it? By the way, is that top level XP Pen tech for today? Yeah, it is. It is, Nick. But yeah, no news. There's been no new news. The hand must be in line. Okay, they're talking about pens. Rotation, Photoshop, great. Okay, so does everyone clear with me about the? Before we leave, we have to make sure everyone understands that the brightness. So here's a classic example. It's just with your own eyes. Okay, if a light bulb is 10 feet away from you, okay, and it's putting out like it's got 10 watts of power, whatever light that is, you see it as whatever level of brightness. If you increase it to twice as much power, how much brighter do your eyes think it is? Is it twice as bright or not? It's not. You will think it's 50% brighter. For you to make the light bulb seem twice as bright to your eyes, you'd have to make it from 10 watts. You'd have to quadruple that to 40 watts, okay? Or something like that. That's what you'd have to do, okay? Or whatever. I don't know. I didn't get the math. I mean, I've got the math straight. You get the idea. You have to do surprising. So you have to really, or actually, it's a different number because it's a spherical thing. But there's a non-linear relationship. And the same thing happens with pens. Some of you probably don't believe me, but I'm going to prove it to you. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably, besides Cube, and of course people on my Discord, only, as far as I know, only Cube and I have numbers where we've measured that we can show you this. And we can show it to you statistically. Okay. So we're gonna. Okay. So, give me a second. I'm so parched. Again, no one knows this because no one talks about it. Okay. So another way of thinking about this. Okay. So you got the numbers. They're affected by an effects layer for a camera. In Photoshop, they're affected by pressure curves in 3 different places in our apps and in the drivers, okay? They both have curve. They both do the same exact thing. What does a pressure curve fundamentally do? A pressure curve is I'm not joking, this is literally what it effectively does, is a table, okay? It's a table that has 2 columns. And let's pretend just to keep the numbers simple, that you have 100 pressure levels. Okay? Your curve has 2 columns and it has 100 rows. The first row is called the input, and it goes from 0, maybe it has 101 rows, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 100. Okay? The second row says how to change the first row. Usually you leave 0 alone. Okay? You say 1 becomes 2. And 2 becomes 7, and 3, it's a table. At least that's how you can implement it. And so the numbers just get transformed. And if you plot those numbers, that's the shape of the curve, okay? And there are different ways of expressing this concept, but I just want you to remember, that's all a pressure curve does. It takes a number, and it gives you another number. That's it. We just visualize in different ways, but once you can visualize, you can see what's actually happening, okay? Let's see. Elsevier, that analogy works for you? Okay, good. DCF kind of works like noise levels too. No, that's good that you brought that up. In fact, there is noise. Remind me, DCF, if I don't say anything, because there is noise we'll need to talk about. There's 2 kinds of noise that we'll need to address. We'll talk about the noise of the tablet and pen. We'll talk about the noise of your hand, okay? Because both introduce a kind of noise, okay? But let's get to that a little bit later. Now, the next part is going to get confusing, because you have always heard about pressure curves, and we're obviously going to be talking about pressure curves. There are actually 2 different things that have a curve shape, okay? So you got to keep them straight in your head. There's a pressure curve that we know about, which transforms one number to another. And then there's another kind of curve. It looks like a curve. It is a curve mathematically. It's what I don't call it a curve often, or I call it a special kind of curve. Here's the names I call it. It's called the pressure response curve, or the pressure response, okay? Now the pressure response is kind of like 2 columns also, okay? But they're different. The pressure response tells you what's the native behavior of the pen. It's also like a table, okay? It says, here's how much input, physical pressure, we'll get to that in a second. It is not implemented this way. It's just, I'm using this as an analogy. It takes physical pressure and it maps it to logical pressure, meaning a percentage value, okay? So what's physical pressure? 1 gram force, 1 pound, whatever, okay? It's not implemented in a mathematical way that way. It's very analog in the pen, but you need to understand that's the behavior of the pen, okay? So how do you know what the behavior of the pen is? The pressure response. How does the pen respond to physical pressure? What you do is, I'm trying to find a box or something. I want to use this box. Pretend this box is a scale, okay, like an actual digital scale. You take your tablet and you put it on the box, okay? And then you carefully, it's very hard to do this by hand. Cube can do it, I can't. I built a device to do this. You hold the pen vertically. It's very important you do it vertically. And you press down, okay? And then on the scale, there'll be a number here that says how hard you're pressing. 1 pound, 1 gram force, whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay, so you record that number and you keep the pen very still. You just keep pressing down and you don't change how hard you're pressing. Then you open up an application like Krita and you find out what the percentage, like how hard does Krita think you're pressing. And remember that Krita and any app does not know the physical force, it just knows the logical force. It knows percentages. So 1 gram force, which is super light, that's like a pinch of salt. That will be the very lightest. Most pens can't do it. Wacom, 1 or 3 gram force, that'll show up as a percentage as like 0.01%. Okay? 2 gram force will be like 0.1%. 3 gram force will be 5%. 10 gram force will be like 25%. Something like keep going, okay? So you're getting pairs of numbers. This is the pressure response. It's mapping physical to logical, physical to percentage, okay? Gram force to percentage. And if you plot those out, you get the pressure response. You get the actual, how does the hardware of the pen behave, okay? Oops, I moved my cap out of the way. Let's take a look at like 80 pens. I've measured 80 pens this way. Let's take a look. Okay. Stream tools. Where is it? Pressure curve. Is that it? No. Hang on. I forgot what the URL was of this thing. Oh, wait a second. Maybe I do know what it is. Okay, I'm going to have to find it. Give me a second, my friends. Need my keyboard. And then I'll next. So I'm logging in. Different way. Okay, hang on. I gotta log in. It'll take me another second. So let me be right back. Okay, I'm back. My phone. Let me log in into GitHub so I can find this tool. Yes. Confirm. Yes, it's me. Hello. Didn't quite work. Let's try it again. Try it again. Yes, it is me. There we go. I'm in. Why is it doing this? It's keeping on asking me to log in for some insane reason. Let's see if we can try the camera way of doing it. Okay, I'm logged in. Finally. Okay. I always forget the name of this tool. But don't worry. I will capture it. And put it so we can all see it. Because I want you to see it, okay? And pressure, there we go, okay. So I'm gonna paste a link, okay? Because I want you to see the data with me. You don't have to, but do I scribble and draw? No, I mean, every now and then I might try because this has the S Pen with it, but I don't really. Okay, it's called pen pressure data. Go ahead and just go there. You don't have to, but I think it'll help you to like work with me on this one. Okay, I'm gonna put this here. Okay, so there's lots of stuff here. I don't expect you to use this tool on a daily basis. I just want to show. Remember, I told you I'm going to measure with the scale. Look at what Krita says. I'm plotting the numbers. I plot a lot of these numbers. Okay. So the easiest way of doing this is let's just take a look at. Let's take a look at what pen models I have, and let's just take a look at my. I think the best pen on the market, the Pro Pen 2. Where is that darn thing? Wacom. I hope I have it here. Wacom Art Pen. Am I crazy here? I cannot see it. Wacom. Pro Pen 2, there we go. KP5040. Okay. You can ignore these aggregated stats and don't pay attention to P00. That means IAF. I'm not good at IAF. Okay, so just ignore that. I measured so many pens. Okay. Now 2 of them excluded because one I dropped from a height and one has too high a max pressure. So if you plot that data for this pen, what do you see? Sorry, you can't see it. Oops. Yeah, this is, let me try this. Nope. There we go. Okay. What do you see with the Pro Pen 2? Let's look at the bottom. 0 gram force all the way to what? 1,000. That's 1 kilogram. Okay. So this is, and look where these curves end. This is the pressure response curve. They end at like up here. IF is low, and I'm not good at measuring it, so it doesn't matter. The point is they all converge there, and they all end up here. The lowest pen is something like 650 or something, which is very, very good, okay? So it's hard to see all of these at the same time. Let's take a look at the envelope. The envelope says, this one thick line says, half the pens are on the left that I measured for Pro Pen 2 and half are on the right. But if you look at the blue area around it, that's the total envelope, meaning they're actually very tight. It's a tight grouping, okay? It means unit by unit, the Pro Pen 2 are very consistent, okay? It's super consistent. We want that. And this blue line ends up all the way at 700 something, which is great. That's a very high maximum pressure. Some people can't even press that high. Nick Tyler says, I got a pen-related question for you. Is your God's Chosen Art Pen the same in pressure levels and IF as a standard grip pen? We'll take a look. We can take a look. Art, I only have 2 art pens, so I don't think we can form a full opinion on it, but we'll take a look, okay? Now I'm going to do one more thing, which is I am going to, I think I'm going to take pen families and just group them all, and just click them all. And I'm going to compare them, okay? Now watch this. I know it looks like a mess. Don't worry about it. Here's every pen I have. What do you notice? It's kind of pretty graph, right? The maximum pressure is all over the place. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the envelope. If you look at all pens I have, some of them go all the way here, but they all go up sharply at the beginning. What does that mean? What does it mean that they all go up at the beginning? Pretty sharply. Some very sharp, like this blue line. I'm pretty sure that's the, I can find that out. It's probably a CP913 or 23. Some don't go quite as sharp. What does that mean? Well, the secret is understanding that the left column, or the y-axis, is the logical pressure, the percentage of pressure. So let's put it this way. if I press at about, actually I have the numbers here for these pens. Let's take the Wacom, it's called the KP Gen 2. That's the Pro Pen 2 family. If I press, like, what does it take for me to get to 25% pressure, right? For the Pro Pen 2, I really have to press it with 25 gram force. That's 25 pinches of salt. Okay. Now, what about the? Let's see. I would say it's decently sensitive. In fact, if I even just press with a little bit of gram force, you can actually see it here. I'll get to 10% really quickly with some of these pens. All these pens, when you're close to the IAF, the pressure spikes suddenly high. That's reported to the computer. Okay, and you're going to see the effect of that. So pens are super over. I wouldn't say they're sensitive. I would say they're overreactive at low pressure by default, and they get less and less. That's the slope. When their slope is high, like the steep, they're very reactive to slight changes in pressure, physical pressure. They tip over and get more flat, they become less sensitive, less reactive to pressure. Okay? And you'll see the effect of that. Okay? Now, Nick said, art pen versus. Okay, we'll find out. Let's see what the data says. Okay. Let me go to flagged and clear these. Clear all. I think I can actually do it in the compare. I added a new feature for this. Yeah, I think I have one for Wacom KP. Oh, you wanted specific pens. Let's do it that way. Let me take the art pen right here. I only have two of them, Nick. And I only measured each one once versus the grip pen. That's the KP 501E. Okay, I have three of them. I measured each one at one time. Let's compare them. Scroll in here and let's go to envelope and make sure. So red is, did I do that right? I don't know why. Oh no, I looked in the wrong chart. I'm looking at flagged. Let's go to envelope and split them by family or by model. So I found them very, very similar, actually, right? They have they're high, whereas the Pro Pen 2, though, ends up like 700 something. Their max pressure ends up at 400. That's why 400, 350 is kind of like my threshold for good. Because for like a decade, these pens were considered the best in the market. So I think it's good to say 300, 400 is the bar for a good pressure range. Okay, and again, they're steep at the beginning. That means they are a little hypersensitive, hyperreactive at low pressure. Okay. Now, what does all that mean? Well, we're going to show you that too, because we have tools. We have tools to help you. I think it's called Curve Explorer. Yeah, it's called Web Pressure Explorer. My fault. Okay, copy and let's paste it in. So I'd like you to open this up. Okay. And you have to have a tablet, obviously. And I'm going to move my keyboard to create some space. And it doesn't matter what pen you have, okay? I just want you to take your pen, and you can draw, and there's two sort of canvases on the right. You can draw on either one, doesn't really matter, okay? Same thing. Tablet plugged in. It's not reacting to it. Not reacting to it. Why is that? Oh, sure. Let's try this. I didn't have the hub plugged in. Hub. No, looks like I had to plug it in directly. Not a problem. Sometimes USB hubs don't work the way I expect. There we go. And there we go. I'm drawing. Okay. And let me clear. Add Pro Pen 2? Happy to. Happy to. Let's go back there. I'll have to restart that. Stream tools. What was it called again? Pressure. Oh, it's data. Pressure data. Yeah. Okay. The flag. Let's add another. You wanted ProPen too? KP50. Sometimes I can't even see them. KP504. Okay, I have 9 of those and 13 measurement sessions. Let's go back to flag, take a look, divide by, make the envelope and group by family. So you can see red is KP504, the ProPen 2, right? So it's a little more hypersensitive than the previous generation, and it has quite a bit higher, almost double the maximum pressure, right? Let's see. Aquareg says, do the Samsung Ultra 22. I see. Do all those Samsung Ultras and Samsung Galaxy Tab pens have the same pressure curve? We can take a look at that. I can't say about the pen that's in the phones, but I can tell you about the tablets. So good question. Let's take a look. Let's clear these flags. And let's take a look at brand Samsung. And what do we got here? Yeah, I'm going to put these together. And let's just take a look at the flagged. And by the way, there's some messed up stuff with the IAF, so don't pay too close attention to it. They have a high IAF. I would say don't pay close attention to the IAF here. So basically, these pens are super. Actually, let me give you a little more information. They have a high IAF, so they kind of ignore the beginning part here. That's why it looks strange. I wasn't good at measuring at the time. I've gotten better, but not perfect. They rise up very steeply. And they end really quickly at 200. 200 is like, okay. It's like, okay. And some are to the left. Remember, that line is the median. Half of the pens are to the right, half the pens are to the left. So some are like 160 gram force maximum pressure. Not great. Why is it not great? Because when the maximum pressure is low, you will suddenly hit it. It's really hard to hit control pressure when the slightest touch will send you to 100%, okay? And there's nothing you can do to stop that. Pressure curves can't save you from that. KP, let me do KP701. Aquaric, no, it's because it's not because they have rubber nibs. It has to deal with the specific physical implementation of EMR in those tablets. These are very rudimentary EMR pens. They don't use some of the sophisticated tech. It's a different tech. The same principles, different tech. And so this tech is a cheaper, simpler. It's not unreliable, but it's just not as capable. And I think not as capable of detecting that low IF. Now, I'll say one more thing to be completely honest. I also believe that the pens and even the drivers that talk to them are designed not to have low IF. They are those S pens and Wacom CP913. They are designed not to have low IF. They're engineered to not have it. Why would that be? Why would I say that? Why would I make a claim that's that brash? Number one, remember I told you they use an older form of EMR? Well, so do some Huion pens. And those Huion pens have lower IF than these, significantly lower, okay? So that tech isn't the reason, okay? Or at least you can't fully explain it. Number two, I think there's a business reason. I think they don't want those pens to have super low IAF because they want to sell you on professional tablets that have the professional pens which have really low IAF. Okay, that is my statement. Okay, KP701 versus KP5. I love this. People are asking to look at data. You know, this reminds me. I watch a YouTube channel. I forgot. It's the guy's name is Dan McClellan. He's a scholar. I'm not religious, by the way. I just want to make sure you understand this. But I'm really interested in the study of religion, and he's a scholar of the Bible. and how, like, in a textual criticism sense, he's not religious in a sense on his channel. His beliefs, he just talks about like how the texts originate and what we can interpret, and he speaks like Greek and ancient Hebrew, and it's kind of an amazing guy. But his theme is a concept called data over dogma. Okay, what do you believe? What have you been told to believe versus what was written? What literally, how has the text evolved? Okay. Now, whether or not you're religious, I hope I didn't offend you, but I liked his approach of data over dogma. The drawing table world is filled with a lot of dogma about how these pens behave and what pressure curves do. I'm trying to give you the data so you can make your own decisions, right? And that's why I have maybe peculiar views. Let's see. Okay, let me just take. Whew, I am parched. Man, everyone's asking me to compare. Let me do 701 versus 504. 701 is here versus 504. Okay, this is Nick. Did I do that already? I can't remember. In any case, envelope and group by family. So 504 meaning is this blue line, and 701 is the red line. Okay, so that's how you compare. So you can see this generation of ProPen 2, that generation actually got quite a bit better. Okay, nib friction does not affect these measurements. I think there's two things to say about that. Nib friction does not affect these measurements in the sense that the pen isn't moving, so there's no friction. Okay, there's no lateral motion, so that doesn't account. I do think this though. This is where we get into subjectivity. I believe that the physical sensation, the nib material, its hardness, the texture of the glass or plastic that it's used on, the amount of friction and texture that you feel to the nib, that has a psychological effect on how much pressure you think you're pressing. In other words, I think it is possible that the Samsung S Pen in particular, with its rubber nibs or rubber tip, may feel like it has lower IAF than it really does because of that tip. I believe that might be true. Notice I didn't say is definitively true. I said it might be true. It's super hard to test. You can think of a way to testing it, let me know. But when I try to test it, I find very inconsistent results. Okay? But I believe it might be. Okay. Everyone's asking to test 4K pen versus 2K pen. I'm happy to do. By the way, you guys have the tool, don't you? Let me give you the tool. I'm sorry if I didn't do this. This tool is open. It's not just for me, and the data's even there. And I'm going to put the tool. Okay. Go for it. Play around. Okay, but I want to. It's important. No, I want to answer these questions, even though you could yourself, because we get a chance to. As a community together, we get to figure this out. Okay, where is the 2K pen and 4K pen? Here's the 4K. Here's the 2K. Let's take a look. Let's go to envelope. I should make envelope the default. Did I not add the second one? Let me do my model. So very similar. Now, there's something weird that happened with the IAF. I may have messed that up. Okay? So don't pay attention to like where they begin. Okay? Just pay attention to the overall curve. I think, can you see? You can't see it. My mistake. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. Don't pay attention to this part. I believe they're closer than this implies. I had made a mistake. And so I need to remeasure these pens. But just assume that they both are really low. Like both are like where the blue begins, okay? But just pay attention to the general shape. I think they are basically very similar, right? That's what my data says. I see some variation, but again, I measured these pens when I was a young tablet researcher, okay? Okay, let's see. 2K, 4K, 16K, I don't know, I just want to draw. Well, the good news, DCF, it doesn't matter what the pressure levels are. It doesn't matter at all. Oh yeah, sorry, that's, I see them in confusion, yeah. There's a Wacom 2K pen and a Wacom 4, that's the name of the pen. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Plastic nib on S10 feels so good and glossy, not on matte. Yeah, that's what I thought. I know on paper the S Pen is supposed to be like a really crap pen, really not supposed to be great. However, I actually really like drawing with the S Pen on a Samsung S tablet. I don't know why, but I like it. It feels good to me, even though I'm used to the Pro Pen too. Okay. Okay, so now you understand what pressure response is and the behavior. This is what the pen actually does. Okay? Now, let's try to understand what the pressure curve does. Okay? For that, I gave you the other tool, wherever the heck it is. Let me find it again. Clean up. Tools. Okay, let me paste the link. It's called the Web Pressure Explorer. I have a local version of this on Windows, but this is good enough. Okay. So remember, very few people have measured pens like Cube has measured them, and I have measured them. Okay. Probably none of you have measured. Maybe a couple of you in the Discord I know are really into this stuff, and you might have measured. Okay. But most people, really, when they look at a tablet, they just see the pressure curve in the driver, and they're like, that's their opinion of the pen, okay? So let's pretend we're looking at the driver for a second. Okay? So, actually, I'll switch it like this. Okay, so here's the curve, okay? Now, open up the app, and in your tablet, doesn't matter on top or bottom, just draw. The same stroke will be drawn, okay? Just sketch, doesn't matter. Okay, try to draw light, try to draw heavy. Okay, and you can hit delete or backspace to erase. Okay, now first of all, the curve is here. What does the curve mean? It's straight from the bottom left to top right. This curve means do nothing. It is not doing anything. I'll prove that. But first, let's see a little bit of what happens. Let's try drawing real light near the IAF. Okay. What do you notice? There's a little dot here, by the way, when I'm drawing. That's the actual pressure, okay? It's a purple dot. Note, and I'm trying to keep it steady. It's hard. I have to really work with my hand. Like, I'm trying to keep it at, like, between... It's bouncing up too much. Now, by the way, because this is a web app, you have to keep the pen moving. Don't keep it still. The web apps don't read the pressure correctly if you're not moving. It is hard to keep it still at low pressure. It's very normal. Now, what about at high pressure? Okay, I'm gonna go really high. I can keep it pretty still. Why is that? It's really easy to press down consistently high, right? Here's an analogy I would use. Yeah, actually I can do this. Have you ever seen someone balance something in their hand? Okay, let me just show you this. I have this, what do you call, is this a level? Is that what this is called? I'm gonna try to balance it in my hand, okay? I will really try this. I can kind of do it, actually. And you know what? The heavier it is, like a bowling ball or a baseball bat, I could balance it almost pretty well, right? So like I'm actually balancing it, okay? There's a lot of mass here. There's weight, there's inertia. So this is an analogy. And so it's easier for me to balance this. Here's a Pro Pen 3, which is super light. It's really hard to balance because the second I make the slightest motion, it teeters over and I can't correct it. If I try to correct it, I'm making an insane motion the other way because this is super lightweight. Very little inertia, very little mass, right? So it's a similar effect here. It's easy to keep the pen at a high pressure, then keep it at specific low pressure. Okay? And when you combine that with the fact that pens are hypersensitive at low pressure, the little dot is bouncing all around. Okay? So let's... Oh, okay. Hang on. Let's clear this. I'm going to make the brush size big, like 300. I'm going to try to draw at really low pressure, okay? I'm going to change the color to be red. Oh, you can't see me. You can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. So 300 brush size. I'm going to draw super light, as light as I can. What do you notice about what I'm drawing? Not the colors, about the shapes. It's really looking kind of blobby, ain't it? Why is that? And the reason it's looking blobby is that it's really hard to control pressure. What if I press heavily? It's always, well, it's such a big pen. Let me change the brush size. It's pretty consistent. It's not jumping all around the place, is it? It's smoother because it's easier for me to deal with the mass of this, when I'm talking about the mass of the system. So pens at low pressure are hard to control. So if you're drawing at low pressure, and look at this. Let me erase this. This is a 172 pixel brush, but I can't. It's hard for me to get to like 1 pixel, 2 pixel because it's hard to get to those small values because it's overreactive. It's hyperreactive. Here's what you can do. Now the top is the process pressure. The bottom is the raw pressure. No pressure processing. Oops, I heard my music is off. Let's bring it back on. Okay, I think let me get some water. Okay, here we go. We're gonna actually take a look at the pressure curve. Okay. Now the different pressure curves, this is called a basic pressure curve. And the basic pressure curve is just a curve amount. Okay, so I'm gonna make it like this. Okay, what does that mean? Let me delete, sorry, I'm gonna delete this picture. Oh, I have a button for it, okay. Now I'm gonna draw super light pressure. Whoa. The top is the process pressure, the bottom is the raw pressure. Look at this, suddenly I'm able to draw really light strokes, produce really light things. And look at the dot. It's bouncing left to right, but it's not bouncing up and down because of the curve. That's what curves like this do for you. They, in some sense, they keep the pressure, the logical pressure, kind of controlled. Okay, and there's other ways of controlling it, but you see the difference? So if you're doing some calligraphy, for example, and you wanted to go between thick and thin, you should make a pressure curve like this, right? And it might surprise you how much you have to make this curve bend over like this and go over to the side and up. You can see this brush is 172 big. With the normal, without this curve, I'm just making big strokes all the time. I can't, they're just all big. Okay, but with the pressure curve, let me clear it again. And look how blobby they are. But with the pressure curve, wow, I'm actually able to. Does everyone get that? Okay, let me take a look. Okay. Now, you can curve it here. I think that's a little extreme, to be honest. But if you just do this, you're not getting much effect. Trust me, I'll show it to you. Right? So light curves produce an effect, but it may not be what you want. Okay? I really think you should try something like this. If you want this kind of stroke. Now, not everyone wants this kind of stroke. Okay? So before I continue, I'm going to ask the chat, does everyone understand what is happening with the pressure now? Right? I'm taking the inputs on the bottom, the outputs on the top. It's saying this part, as a person's pressing, don't change the logical pressure much. Map it to a smaller region. Right? And then, it's going back up here. It's becoming more sensitive. Now you're probably thinking, oh, the pen is hypersensitive now at the top. Right? That's probably an instinct you're having. How can this work nicely? Because it's way too sensitive at the top. And that's a logical conclusion. Well, we can show you what's actually happening because I've measured the pen. So let's load one of my pens. Okay, let me clear this curve amount here. This is a Wacom Pro Pen 2 on the bottom left. That's the actual data. Okay, notice it's hyperreactive at the near the IAF. It's overreactive. What happens when I change the curve amount? Watch this. Uh-oh, I made it linear. That's why it shows like this. Does everyone get it? That's why I tell you the pressure curve is not the behavior of the pen. It's modifying the behavior. This curve makes this behavior linear. Okay? That's why the pressure curve is dependent on the specific pen. A different pen will have a slightly different curve. You can see that here, right? These pens are very similar. So that's, they don't see much difference. But you get the idea? Okay, I'm waiting for the chat. I want to make sure people are on the same page with me. Can you see what the pressure curve is really doing? Okay? Right? And so when you think of the ball, think about how much it's rising. I can control its vertical distance very easily at all levels, right? Even though it's moving horizontally a lot, I've got it in control because it's the vertical that matters. It's logical output, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna keep on looking. I'm gonna keep on asking because it's so important. Okay, now when someone does this kind of curve, they come up with a complaint. You know what the complaint is? They say, and this complaint can happen in other ways. Let me reset the curve. They're drawing the alligator DA. This is the elite ball knowledge of drawing. I think it is, honestly. Not to brag, but I think we have discovered this finally. We have the numbers. We have the data. Okay. So some people are drawing, and they get, I always tell people, make your curves like this, make your curves like this, right? They do it, and then they're like, well, but when I draw, my strokes are too small. I get it. You want thicker lines, right? How can you make thicker lines? You can make your brush big, but even if you make your brush big, look, I made my brush almost 500. Still, at low pressure, my lines are super thin. So when you have a curve, like, it really affects the brush. So let's put the brush back to a normal size, like, I don't know, 60, and reset the curve. So what they will do, because they're like, I like the idea of the pressure curve making things more controlled, but the 7 pens guy, when I follow his advice to make it like this, it's messing up my thickness. What they do is they do this. Now I want you to take a look at the bottom. Look at the bottom's over on the other side of me. Okay, yeah, this side. That's the actual behavior of the pen. What happens when I change the curve like this? That thing is crazy. It's jumping up almost immediately to the maximum pressure. And they're interpreting this as, oh, I get thicker lines. I have more control. Actually, this can work. And the reason it works is because you're just slamming your pen down there and you're not working at super low pressure. I think there's a better way of doing this. Well, we have sigmoid. We can take a look at sigmoid. Instead of this, I'm going to change my curve type to extended for a second and reset. Instead of that, you raise the output floor like this. By the way, this same thing happens in Photoshop curves, right? Now this says the very lightest pressure produces an output of 50%. So guess what? Right? Now my curves look thicker on average, right? And if I still want a curve, I still recommend a little bit of curve. You don't need as much, actually. This is great. This still gives you some variation. Sometimes you want to draw line art, but you don't want all the lines to be the same. You want some variation, but you want to go for like super thin, super thick, right? This gives you, like, your hand is resting around here. When you really want to go thick, you can get there. If you really want to go thin, you won't get too thin, right? I don't think sigmoid does enough, I would say, Elsevier. So again, pressure curves change the behavior of the pen. They are not the behavior of the pen. You don't know what the behavior of the pen is unless you measure the pen like I have measured them, okay? You can make some guesses about what's happening. Okay, next thing. Let's go reset this curve. Some people notice that they touch the pen to the surface And they don't want to draw. They want to press harder. They want to increase the IAF. Can you increase the IAF of a pen? You can. You can't just decrease it, but you can increase it with a pressure curve. Watch this. And I'm gonna do it quite a bit because you have to see it. You look at the bottom curve as well. You see what's happening there? Does everyone see? I'm increasing the IAF, and let's prove it. Now, in this code, I have it drawing when there's 0 IAF, when there's any physical pressure. But let me see if I can change that. I have to. So it shouldn't be drawing anything, but you get the idea, right? Let me try it this way. And then suddenly it starts drawing here, right? That's a reduction in IAF. So there's a slight bug in my UI here. So you can increase the IAF that way. So a lot of people, oh, I see what happened. I actually increased the size of this. I lifted this up a little bit. I meant to put it all the way down. So let me do it this way. Now it should work. Yeah, see, I'm drawing at the bottom, but because I've increased the IAF on the process part on top, nothing's getting drawn. But once I hit that threshold, it starts getting drawn. So that increases IAF. So whenever you see that, it increases IAF. Can you decrease maximum pressure? Sure, you can. You can, let me show it this way. Obviously, you don't know how hard I'm pressing, but I'll have to just tell you. I'm pressing down pretty hard for this pen. And that's how I get the maximum pressure. But let's just say it's, I don't want to press down that hard. You move this over here. Oops, not down, but just to the left. Now I have to press, you see the effect on the actual pen, right? Since I measured this pen, the maximum pressure went from 685 gram force to what? To, looks like about 170 gram force, right? So now I can get to 100%, like really easily, maybe too easily, honestly. Now, this is useful because there's a couple of uses for this. Number one, again, it goes back to some people don't want to press down that hard. Sometimes the pens are defective. They require, basically too much maximum pressure. So that fixes that. So typically, I think, again, if I go reset this, a curve like this, you start off with, I think. If you want to make the curve, your lines a bit thicker, you can increase it like this. Okay. This is what I think most people should do. And if you need to decrease maximum pressure, you do this. This is, I think, a curve that a lot of people can work with. And we actually saw some examples similar to this. Okay. Now we can try sigmoid. Honestly, when I try sigmoid, I don't really get much effect with sigmoid myself. It doesn't do much for me, in my opinion. But I think for some people they like how it feels. But to me, I just don't. I still think it doesn't help me as much. But some people like it. I have tried it, but I've never found it like really made a big difference for me. Let's see. Let's go back to my PowerPoints here. And you can see you can see why I don't think sigmoid helps. Take a look at pass-through, which is null, and then sigmoid. All it did was make it so that suddenly I went to max pressure high. Like this oh, sorry, you can't see. Let me reset this. Okay, so when it's flat, here's the pressure response. My face is in the way. Oh, let's try this again. Okay, now here we go. When the curve is flat, the response is, whatever the response is. When I start shifting the sigmoid curve, the net effect was this. It basically just meant I got to 100 faster. That's why I don't find it super useful. Did it fix a little bit of the oversensitivity at the low end? Yes. But I lost a lot of maximum pressure. Now maybe that's what you want. That's why I don't find this it's not just very compelling for me. Okay? I hope that made sense. I'll see. But some people really like the feeling of it. I don't really think much of it. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to pressure curves here. And I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint, or I'll show the PowerPoint. Okay, let's go back. So now when we look at all of these, we can go back and say, well, we know what's happening here. This is making the pen hit 100% really fast. It's making it hypersensitive. This person wanted thicker strokes. He didn't need to do this. Yeah, I want you to keep your sensitivity, and still have thicker strokes. You can do that by raising the floor. This one just got rid of maximum pressure. Now you know why. This one increased the IAF, and it made it, less overreactive at low pressure. This almost did nothing, though you can see why you can get a sense what they were going for. It really didn't change the pen's behavior for most pens. This one increased, it just made the strokes thicker, and it made the pens overreactive. You didn't need to do this. Pens are already overreactive as it is. This one did nothing. This one is very similar, but this person to one of the curves I showed you, but it makes the, you really have to press hard now to draw where this person wants to draw. And this one's very similar, just didn't change the IAF. This one's actually very similar, but again, they made the pens by curving it up, they made it overreactive. Yeah, and this didn't do much. I can show you that this didn't do much. Let's show it to you. That was the sigmoid curve, right? Didn't do much at all, right? Okay, so now you know about pressure curves and what's going on there. I will try to do a video explaining this, but it's just, it takes a lot of setup for this. Okay, now let's talk about, hang on, let's get this moved out here. Was that good? Okay, I need to take a quick bio break. I'm going to just be back in just a minute or two. Okay, so be right back. Okay, I am back. Now we're going to talk about the fact that there are different pressure curves. Okay, and this is a tough one. I don't have an app to show this to you. I could, it wouldn't be hard. I'll make one. but I'll have to just basically explain it to you. Okay. You saw that if I have a pressure curve, it's going to change the numbers, right? And what happens is there are multiple pressure curves. There's one in the driver. Drawing apps they tend to have a pressure curve for each brush. In fact, they have pressure curves for like each aspect of the brush, like how pressure affects the rotation, or how pressure affects the color, or pressure affects the width, right? But here we'll just talk about width, just to keep it like the noise. Is there some noise? Is there noise or something? And then also applications they can have a global pressure curve. Okay, so let's draw those out for a second. I can find my whiteboard here. Where is it? I may have to refind. Okay, give me a second. I need to find where the whiteboard went. Okay, Microsoft Whiteboard. Oh, wait, it's a local app, right? Whiteboard. Let's see if this works any more reliably. Oh, sign in to use it. Sure, let's sign in. Let's see. Hi. Is worth I spend more to buy an S10 FE Plus in my country is like $100 more than S10 FE. I don't know. I mean, I've never used the Plus. I don't know. I don't think it's a requirement. I think I have the S9 FE. I think it's a great tablet. Now, have I been tempted to get the FE Plus? Yes, because it's bigger, if I'm not mistaken. I think it has some better processor thing, but I've been so happy with my S9 FE. I think it's a safe thing to get. I don't think it's a must. That makes sense? The size, Elsevier? Yeah. And the other thing is sometimes tablets can be too big. Like S9 FE is like very convenient size. If things are bigger, I think 13, like, okay, let me put it this way. Let's compare this. The iPad 11 works good for me for drawing. The iPad 13 is just too big for me. Okay? Like, it's a fine tablet. It works great. It's just too awkward to hold. It's just a little too big. I draw in bed a lot. That thing is just, and I draw sort of stomach down, facing the tablet on the bed. And like, the screen is too big for my eyes, right? I need something smaller. It's awkward to hold with one hand because it's just heavier. So I think you have to keep that in mind. Now, Elsevier says, you think it's worth it? I think you should think about the weight. If you can, find a device that's the same size and just see what it feels like in your hand. You don't need even a device. You just, find a sheet of metal, a piece of wood that's about the same size and same weight. Just think about what it'd be like to carry that with you and hold in your hand and wherever how you like to draw, on the couch, in bed, if it makes sense. I think a 13-inch is too big. Great tablet, too big. So you got to be careful about the size. Like the Wacom Moving Pad 11 is a perfect size, right? I have the 14. It's when you get to 13, 14, you have to put it on a desk. Like, it's just that kind of device at that size. Oh, good point, Elsevier. The split screen. I hadn't thought about that. That could be a real advantage. Okay. So this is going to be for reference or chat. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. If you're into that, then yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to draw. Okay. So let me get this tablet out of the way since I'm going to draw right on the monitor. And let's get this thing here. Okay. So you have potentially the driver curve. You potentially have the app global curve. And then you have the brush curve. There's 3 potentially different pressure curves in the system. Now, the first thing you need to understand is they are all applied, all of them. Okay? Now, there are different strategies for using them. But in general, this is my feedback. Okay, I think you should set this always, the application global. Oops, I moved the monitor. Hang on. Okay. Let me use a different color for this. I think the application global should be set like this. Okay? You should just make it linear. Remember, that does nothing. If it's applied, it'll do anything. So now you reduce your problem from 3 places to 2. Okay? And the S10FE has more battery. And yes, it's heavy. You get used to it. Yeah, I just think you should. It's hard to speak about which one's better because it's a physical feeling. It's not like, for me, it would be too big, but for other people, it'd be perfect. So that's the first thing. You should keep this straight, okay? Because they're all applied. So for example, let's suppose in the driver, you did this and then this, right? So you have 2 curves like this. They add up, or they multiply, or whatever you want to call it. But it ends up, they'll do this, right? It's almost like that. That makes sense? They add up, right? What if one curve does this and the other one does this? Well, those add up into this. Okay? So you can see the curves can, kind of like waves, they can constructively interfere or destructively interfere. So you got to be careful what you do with them. Okay? Some people, they suggest doing the following. They suggest keeping this one like this, keeping this one like this, meaning they don't do anything, and then doing with this whatever you need to do. That's a valid strategy. Okay? Other people suggest changing it here and then leaving this alone. Okay? I have a mixed strategy here. Now, this isn't ideal. What I like to do is I like to solve problems here in the driver, and I like to tweak here, okay, or customize. What problems do I solve in the driver? I solve. You can do 2 things. You can increase. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze in a second. Oh, it's a sneeze that's coming. Oh boy. Okay. What kind of problems can you solve? Okay, you can, if you have a low IAF, you can increase the IAF. That's something you can do. If you have a high max pressure, you can decrease max pressure. Okay? In other words, you can do this. Oops. Thank you. Thank you, Elsvale. I think the most you want to do in driver is this. This monitor is moving as I draw, so I'm going to do it again. That's about the most, that's my theory, right? Because this will fix the pen for your fundamental usage of it, okay? Once you've done that, you leave the application global alone if you have it, and then in the brush, do whatever you need to do. Do it like this, or whatever. But I don't think you should do those curves in the driver. Now, things get a little complicated because not all drivers let you move these like this, but usually they do, okay? So in the driver, fix problems. Low IAF, increase it. High maximum pressure, decrease it. Don't curve it. Leave the application global curve alone. Tweak or customize the brush in your app. Okay? Does that make sense? But everyone, what I'd like you to do is before you draw next time, before you go to bed and brush your teeth, I want you to take a look at your app, Clip Studio Paint, and look at these settings and verify what they're doing. I'm not asking you to change them. I'm just asking you to verify. Okay? So let's do that with Clip. Okay? Let's do it with Clip so that there is, you know what I am trying to get at. Okay? And I have Clip here, so let me bring it up. Okay? So actually, so how do we verify? First, you open up the driver. I have DigiDraw. Okay? Where the heck is it? I think I have DigiDraw here. Didn't I? Or maybe it's under Turing. It's confusing. It says Turing tablet. Okay, sure. I looked at the brand name. Okay, so we got to, let me turn off Clip, or let me hide Clip, because we're not looking at Clip right now. Let me close all these windows. Okay, so let's look at the pressure curve. So it's probably here. Pressure curve is flat, or not flat, but it's the do nothing curve. Now, also check if you have if you've added a custom override, like for, let's just add where's Clip here? Clip Studio Paint, right? You might, so you got to double check. You might have made one of the, let me change this. See, for all apps, it's like this, but for Clip, you set to this. Get rid of it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Either don't have Clip or set it to this, okay? So you got to double check for app-specific curves. So do that, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and delete Clip here. Okay, delete, okay? Keep it flat. Problem solved. Then let's open up Clip Studio Paint, and we go to File, I think it's under File, Preferences. And we go to, this is on Windows, but it's the same thing as on Mac. I believe it's here. No, it's not here. So on Clip, it's File, Pen Pressure Settings. Yeah, this is the global curve. So first of all, let me just hit, oops, I hit cancel. Pen Pressure Settings. And we want to show pen pressure graph. It's flat. We're good, okay? And just, I'll reset it to default just in case, okay? And then we'll close it. So it's just flat. It's the do nothing curve. So we're good. We cleared it all out. Then we look at the brush. We're on the Real G pen. We click here. And let's just say, remember, this pressure can affect lots of things. I'm going to look at brush size. And look at this. This is already curved down a little bit, okay? So be aware of that, okay? Tweak it here. So we're tweaking. We're tweaking. Okay, and then what about Krita? Krita is very similar. We already talked to the driver. In Krita, it's settings, configure Krita. And then tablet settings. Okay, there it's flat. Or it's not flat, but it's the do nothing curve. Great. Then we go to the brush. This is the, let's pick a brush here. This one. And let's click, how do I get, oh yeah. Click on the brush settings. We'll go to size, and the pressure curve is set to this, right? Great. So I can tweak it if I want to look however I want. That makes sense? Always check. Some apps have brush curves only. Some apps have only a global curve. Some apps have neither, and you have to use a driver setting for it, okay? Okay, with that, I think I have covered possibly everything we need to talk about for pressure curves. We understand the theory behind them. We understand how they compute together, how they combine together with pressure response to create effects. We know what the shapes tell us. We know how to increase IF. We know how to decrease maximum pressure. We know how to work out some of the hyperreactivity in lots of EMR pens. And we know that there are multiple curves involved and that we have to check it. And because the curves all are applied, we have to check which one is at, what they're actually set to, okay? There's nothing as, and it's caught me many times on stream where I'm using a pen, it's like, that's not working. And I realize, oh, I've set the curve in the driver to something weird, and so it's making my pen feel weird. Okay, I'm gonna hang on for just a minute. I think we're done with the stream, and we'll see if we have any questions. I think we're good though. I think we had a good Friday night session. I learned a ton from the comments. That was really good. I'm glad. Was it Lazy Artist who brought that Twitter thread? We took a look at it. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to call it an end of the stream. Everyone, have a great Friday or Saturday, if that's wherever you're at. I will be streaming again soon, and thanks so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks, Elsevier. Thanks for joining us. And join the Discord if you're not. Oh, you're already on the Discord. Yeah, okay, we're good. Bye, everyone.